Thank you. This is the class list for next month. All right, so the first card is going to be this one here.
That is so cute.
See, my grandkids would like that one.
And that's the one that's on back order.
The paper is on back order. And so is the stamp set. Frightfully Cute, I believe, is on back order.
Yeah, move them up a little bit. There we go.
You know what?
That's better.
If you need it closer in for some reason, let me know so I don't forget to zoom up on it. But here's the stamp set, and we're going to use the what did I put?
Cute.
Less trick and more treatin' is what I put inside with Happy Halloween to You. So those two stamps are on the stamp set. And then the one from the front is the Frightfully Cute. Everything else either uses the die set, which comes with that. That's the Frightful Tags and the Give It a Whirl. Yeah, the Give It a Whirl dies is what cuts the actually card out.
Don't have those.
It's very interesting. It kind of hides in the catalog. It doesn't have a bundle with it. It's just a set of dies, but here's what cuts out the wheel, the turning wheel. And then there's several kinds of windows. There's this, I call it an eyebrow window. And then there's a circle window that you can use and a heart-shaped window. And then there's all other kinds of things that you can use to cut out as well.
What page is that on? Do you know?
So
Lynn was just
I have to
asking.
look now. I can look it up.
oh, you want the number? If you're taking notes, the number is, and I glued my thing over the number, 154336.
Thanks.
If you look on the dies pages, let's see if I can find it real quick.
Right, but I usually look on the die pages when I'm looking for the die that goes with the stamp set or the bundle. Same thing with punches, you know, I don't necessarily look at them separately all the time.
Right, the dies are, they're not in the section with the bundles. So they are page 163, about the middle of the page on the left.
Okay.
How much are they?
And they show you how they're used on page 57. So on page 57, you'll see their version of how to use the dies. It's, you know, it uses the Stellar Birthday set. So you can see here where you can use this for lots of things. I used it for Halloween. They're using it for birthday. You can't very well use it for sympathy, but you could use it for get well. So there you are. That's where that's at.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And the little guy here turns.
Oh, cute.
So all these images on here I punched out of their specialty paper, which is also on back order, unfortunately, but it's Cute Halloween 6x6 designer series paper. Barbara actually was able to score a copy, I think. I think that's what you said, right?
If it's not on, yeah, I don't know if I don't know what I'm going to get that's on back order.
It's on back order, but she was able to get in before it went non-orderable, so that's a good thing. The color of the card base is grainy apple green. The color of the wheel is Highland Heather. I've got some pumpkin pie cardstock here, and the spider web is smoky slate. The inside is basic white. And so is the tag on the outside. You use one brass brad, and you'll need some dimensionals to hold the wheel up so that it doesn't drag on the card below.
In the kit, we can make only one of those, right?
Correct. Now your kit is going to have this front piece already cut out and the piece on top of it already cut out because they need to match together. You wouldn't be able to cut 10 of them and be guaranteed that they're going to match up. So that's what I did. And you're going to just flip this back on itself and put some adhesive here. And just stay between the stitching and you'll be fine. And then flip this back up. The paper just fits inside the stitching, and then you'll want the hole for the brad, which is, can you see the hole? Maybe not. There it is. See the hole right there? You want to make sure that's lined up. Then you could take this piece of temporary tape off. And your directions might have it in a different order, but it does the same thing. Then you'll take your piece of striped DSP. This paper all comes from that Halloween paper that we're working with. And it just is going to butt up next to the other piece. And stay inside the stitching on the bottom and left and right side of the card. So you're going to have that tiny little border sticking out. Now you're going to wonder, what am I going to do with this? My best answer for that is to put the piece back into the die. Get the die out. There it is. Here's the die that cuts that. And since your DSP is on the inside of that card, you can see how it'll click right back into place. And run it through the big shot, and it will cut that little piece of paper out. Now you folks probably will not be ordering the dies, so you may not have them. So in that case, you can take a circle punch and match it up with that thumb slot on the back. Or you can take your scissors and cut around that circle with, cut the excess paper out. This makes a real nice, neat cut this way. All right. And then that's all you need with that for now. So you're going to set that aside. And then we will stamp the inside sentiment on the inside layer. Without hitting the camera. And I put two stamps together to make one sentiment, basically. Less tricking, more treating. Happy Halloween to you is what it says. Use another dose. I like my sentiments to be bold and clear. Alrighty. And you can take this, I'm going to call it scalloped circle wheel. Can you see on there the indentations that happen from the
Yes.
die
Yes.
at all?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's where you want to make sure that you put your items that you're going to put in the windows inside of that, so that they appear in the window rather than halfway out of it. So I punched out the paper for you and made it into stickers. You can use your adhesive sheets to do this because that's what we sell. And you're just going to peel them off and then put them in there within the boundaries of those wedge places. You can take a pencil and kind of mark that a little bit so you can see it a little better and then erase it off after. Right. And the ghost, it needs, I think it's a little girl ghost. She's got pink cheeks. She needs to fly a little sideways in order to fit in there properly. So that's how I put her in there. And then we take the spider from the stamp set, this one here. And we're going to stamp that in between these so that there's, as you're turning this wheel, there's something else to look at instead of just a blank purple spot, was my thought. So this is really kind of pretty optional if you don't want to use it. It's kind of stamped in there. And if you want to keep it from going off the edge, just wipe some of the ink off on the end, or only partially ink up the stamp, but it really doesn't matter if it goes off the edge anyway, because it won't be seen. So more time. One of my spiders looks like a black widow because it didn't get, oh, its body has a gap in it, but since it was on the line, it left an open spot. So I'm going to take the marker, fill it in just a little, just a little. Yeah. Okay. Then you will take, there's a brad in your kit, and just start stacking up these bags and put them all together. And when you see me next, you can give them all back.
I have a bunch to return. I'll have to remember to put it in my bag and give it to you tomorrow night.
All that happens is you put this behind and match up the holes with the brad. Put the brad through the purple wheel and then splay it open on the back.
Ooh, splay. I like that word.
If you can splay. My fingernails are not, now you don't need this real tight, but it needs to be open all the way because you still want to be able to turn the wheel, especially if you're giving it to kids. They won't want to fumble around too much. And then on the back piece here, you're going to take dimensionals and put them wherever there's black.
Okay.
Not putting any where there's purple. And this is going to hold this piece up and off of the card base so that you still have the ability to turn the wheel. And I like to put a couple little dimensionals over here on the side so this little piece doesn't get snagged on the way in or out of the card. In the tighter spots, I put the small ones, but you can cut big ones as well. I normally use the pieces too, so we'll incorporate some of those. You could also use foam tape, the strips. Whatever you use, just make sure they're all the same thickness so that you don't have a kind of wavy warble in your structure here. Now to try to pull all these things off. That's the fun part. People use a pick, or the pokey tool, as I call it, and they're not called take your pick tool with Stampin' Up. And I like to take the pick tool because it has a real nice little spatula on the bottom.
Oh, I have
And
that.
while I'm taking these off, I'm going to tell you a tip that I found, and you put this on your back burner. I don't know how I came across it. I just thought of it because maybe somebody else mentioned it. But when you need to pull this off because you've put it upside down or you've placed it crooked or something like that, and it's really stuck down, especially if you're using dimensionals because they stick really bad, just take your heat tool and heat up the opposite side just a little bit. It doesn't need to be terribly hot, but enough to, it kind of melts the glue and it pulls right off. No problems, no tears, no nothing.
I've heard
If I
that.
heated this up, I would heat it up on the inside here and then just start slowly lifting it off and heating as I go, and it just comes right off.
Is it usable then?
Yep, very useful information because we never make mistakes, do we?
I remember using hair dryers for things like that too, like to remove stamps and things from envelopes. And
I never thought to use heat on it. I'm always trying to wedge something under. I'm putting the inside of the card on here, as it's quite obvious. Then the outside of the card, you have three things left. You have that pumpkin pie tag, a white tag, and a
spider web.
smoky slate spider web. And I'm going to put some glue on here, but I'm only going to put it on the straights, none of these curved things. It doesn't need a lot of glue. It just needs some dots of glue here and there to hold it down. You could just dot the intersections here and get it glued down just as well. Your other choice is to cut this out with adhesive sheets prior to put the paper on an adhesive sheet and then die cut through the sticker, and you'll have a sticker when you're all cut out. So here's the spider. And we have a choice of Happy Halloween to You or Frightfully Cute. I thought the Frightfully Cute was cute. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stamp that on the white. And this is a little more difficult for me for where I put my desk. Let's see if I get it. It's down to the bottom a bit, but we're gonna leave it go. Then you'll take this pumpkin pie one and just snip it in half, and it doesn't need to be accurate. But you put a little glue on each end of the white tag. And you're just going to glue this behind it so that about a 1/4 inch of it sticks out. Oh, 1/4 to 3/8. It's probably more like 3/8. Like, you don't need to get a yardstick or anything. Just try to make them both on the same stuff, both the same distance on either side. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to put some dimensionals on here, but I'm not going to put any in the very center because that is where the brad is at. And I don't want any interference with the ability for that brad. Sometimes the brads turn as well as what's underneath. So I didn't want any interference there. And then also if you put a dimensional on top of that brad, it's going to stick up higher and look kind of warbly. Good there. And I'm going to put that right over the brad so that the bottom of the label is even with where the two different pieces of paper come together. All right. That's pretty much it. Okay. That's the end of card number 1. And you can see when you turn this, you see the spider in between your images. I thought that was just a little added treat. If you can't get the paper, but you can get the stamp set, they have the stamps with these faces on. I think I put it back on the bookshelf, but they have stamps and matching dies that you could make this yourself, but you would have to color it in. This is the second card. It's also Halloween. And this is what they call a floating gatefold. No, wait a minute. A gatefold floating table card. If you Google floating table card, you'll come across a lot of them. Dawn Griffith does some excellent videos, and her instructions are what I followed to make the card. So your card is, and here's your kit. There's lots of little things in this kit. All right, we have a basic black cardstock base. It is 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 2 1/8 on this side, and then 6 3/8, and that will give you the 4 1/4 inside distance that you need between the two folds. You'll have a piece of very vanilla that's 4 by 5 1/4. You'll have some of the DSP from that set. This happens to be candy corn that you can use over here. This is 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. And if you want to color the candy corn in, if you like, go for it. Why not? All the yellow is Daffodil Delight, except the moon for the front and what's behind the owl's eyes, and that's crushed curry. So you're going to have 2 squares of Daffodil Delight. You can either cut them from the layered squares dies, or you can cut them to 1 7/8 square. 1 7/8 by 1 7/8. With the scalloped rectangles, those are cut with the layered squares dies. So if you have the layered squares dies out, you might as well cut these out along with them as you're going. These two strips are 1 inch by 5 1/4. And they are scored at 1, 3 1/4, and 4. Both of them the same, although we are going to use them in opposite directions. You'll see that later. So we're going to begin by stamping the inside sentiment. And I have it mounted in my stamp apparatus. However, I'm going to try to show you how you need to figure out where to put it. You're going to lay these black squares in where they're going to wind up when the card is open. And that's pretty much an even border, top and side and top and side. So you'll need to set your stamps up so that they end up in these empty spots. So you can see that when I close my stamp apparatus, that the two stamps are going to wind up in those empty spots. After you have them set up on your stamp apparatus or MISTI or whatever you use, you take the black pieces off so they don't get in the way. And you're going to stamp these 2 sentiments on here. And they say, which way to the candy? And you're so sweet, it's scary fun. And so I got a little halo on there. Watch that on your stamps. Pressed a little hard. Right. Then on your, we can go ahead and mount that inside the card if it's dry. You can also put the panels. I'm going to, so you know, panels is going to be these short pieces over here. And I'm referring to panels. That's the side panels. Use this area to either side that folds in. There's one. And you can also use the polka dot side if you like that better.
Oh, that's cute.
I thought the black showed up a little more. That's the end of that one. This one, there we go. This particular pattern is non-directional, so it doesn't matter which way you put it in there. All righty, then we're going to set that piece aside for a little bit and get out these 2 squares. You want to find the moon and the witch for the first one. We are going to stamp the moon in gray granite. And you can put the cheesy looking part of the moon wherever wherever you like, either on the right or the left or the top or the bottom, whichever. Whoops. There's our moon. And then the witch, we're going to stamp over the top of that with the Memento black ink. And you're going to want to make sure you're good and inky so you get a nice black impression. Otherwise, you'll have to go in and color it in with your black marker, which is not the end of the world. See if I can get it this time. Last time I had to color it in, so there we go. So that's that one. Then the other square is going to get stamped with, I call it the potion bottles, and I added the bats. So that would be this potion bottles down here and the bat. You can put the bat wherever you like on the scheme of things. I also stamped those with Memento black ink. Nice inky image would be good. Get that straight and go for it. Those could use a little coloring in, so it might behoove you to set this up in the Stamparatus so that you can restamp if you need to, or you'll be coloring it in again with the black marker or a black Stampin' Blend. Either one will work. That's not bad. It wasn't terribly bad image to start with, but I like them to look nice and bright. My back could have been down a little lower too. Picky, picky, picky me. Alrighty, then we're going to adhere our squares to their black backgrounds. Centered. All right. We're going to take the strips and we're going to work with this bottom figure. Oh, that came undone. So I need to use Tombow. Whenever you have something that you're going to be pulling against, it's best to use Tombow. And I didn't for the speed of things when I made that card yesterday for the Zoom. So you're going to take this strip. Now you're going to have a reference in your directions to a single square and a double square. The single square means that when you fold it, that square is all there is before the wide part of the strip. The double square has two squares on the other side of the wide part. So when you fold this, it's going to look like this.
Okay.
All right. And this piece right here is going to be put against the fold here. And I'll show you an easier way to do it, but that's how it stands up in there and makes the table.
Okay.
And it's against here. All right. So what we need to do is put our picture on the wide part of this sticker. And by the way, the removal trick works as good with Tombow as it does with regular tape runner.
Oh, the
because
heat.
Tombo's got latex in it. Well, that didn't stick. Come on here, Tombo. All right. And put as much on there as I thought I did. Then you're going to put glue on the top side of the single square. So you get single square, double square. On top of the single square. And you're going to flip this over so that you can put the single square and put it right next to the score line, not over the score line, just right next to it. And you're going to watch the distance down here. This should be about a 1/4 inch. It doesn't matter exactly what distance it is, but you want both of them to be even and not to crash into each other. So I used about a 1/4 inch. That's about a 1/4 inch of DFP showing and another 1/8 of an inch of cardstock. So that's about 3/8 from the bottom edge. Then you'll take this other square, it's on the double square side, but you're going to fold in the one section and put some glue on it. All right, ladies, sorry about that. The internet dropped out.
Not your fault.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
Everybody's in?
Yep.
Did you see what I did with this
Yes.
particular piece?
yes.
It's butted up next to the score line, but not on it. And then this is about 3/8 from the bottom. I put some glue only on the single side of that, and then we just flip the whole thing over and press it into place. Now here's where you want to make sure that you have it straight here across, perpendicular to or parallel with the bottom, and maybe want to put it this way. As you can see, it's just a hair crooked, so we can fix that because it's Tombo. All right. Now on the other side, we're going to do a similar thing, but we're going to work in reverse. We're going to put the single square on the left and the doubles on the right, because you're going to attach the single to this side of the card. All right, so it's the same process. Other side of the card. And you want to make sure that you put your picture on right side up. And I think I was telling you, did that come out that this works? The remove the glue thing works on Tombo as well, because it has latex in it.
Yes.
It won't work on Elmer's though, as far as I know. It has to be something that has a rubberized. The glue is on the top. We're flipping it over. We're going to try to position this edge in the same distance that it was down here. And again, right next to that fold, not into the fold. And that's about 3/8 of an inch there. Your eye won't pick up a small difference between the two, but they could crash together if you get them too far this way. So you don't want to go any closer.
Don't want that to happen.
And then we're going to fold this. I have this upside down, so this is the single. I better turn it right back so you can see it. So there's the single one. The glue is on it. We're going to take the whole mechanism and fold it over and glue it down and rub so that the glue sets. So we're going to make sure it's straight though first. There we go. All right, and when you close this card, you need to close both sides at the same time. Otherwise, you'll get one of these jobbies, it won't close. So it's both at the same time. All right, then there's a little tag, a little yellow tag Well, it's supposed to be in your kit. Why is it not in my kit? No, I don't see it, but I did see it. Anyway, it looks like this one right here. That's what I did with it. I put it right in here, and you can see that it overlaps a little bit, but it says Happy Halloween to you. If you want to leave that out, that's entirely up to you, but you kind of have to slide that in under the corner, two corners there. All right. Depending on how high up you got, sometimes they touch and sometimes they don't, depending on how high this went when you did it. All right, back to this, and I do need to find my kit because it's got the pieces for the fence. There it went. All right, so there's the strip, by the way. I found it. So you'd put it in, you'd stamp on it and put it in here like so, as straight as you can. And then we're going to work on the outside. We got a packet of little itty bitty stars that I die cut out for you. And you'll have an owl that I die cut out for you. And he doesn't have any eyes, so I give you a piece of crushed curry, just a little triangle piece, and you just put that behind here. I would put it on there so you have to snip off the least amount. Let me go ahead and do that. Put some glue on the back of the owl. A little bit. Around his eyes and his beak. And then I put this triangle behind. So there's only a few things that you have to snip off. And I don't know if you can see, it makes his eyes show up. Otherwise, you're against the black and they don't show up. You could totally punch out another one of these in crushed curry and then inlay the eyes and the beak. Well, this is a whole lot easier. So then the little owl is done.
Cute.
Set him aside for a minute. And we're going to take, you'll have a tree that I die cut. You'll have a moon. This can be cut out with a 1 3/8 circle punch, and it cuts a little bit closer to the moon than the die from the die set. So yeah, I kind of liked the smaller border rather than the bigger one, so that's what I chose to do. Then you'll have 3 pieces of fence. By the way, the owl tree and the fence are all cut from pieces of Tastefully Simple DSP. You can also use your wood grain DSP that you probably purchased a year or 2 ago. That worked just fine. I just made them look wood grained. And I don't especially like the
taste.
All right, so what you're going to do is lay them out in the order that you want them to show up on your card. And you're going to put some glue on this last fence post on the left, but the right post of the left fence. And then you'll just take this piece and lay it right over the top. And it'll look like it's one continuous piece then. Alrighty, this is where I get a little gluey. And then you're going to do the same thing on this piece. You're going to put a little glue. And it does definitely takes just a little bit. And lay this fence post on top so that it looks like it continues now. It looks like a well-worn fence because it's in more than one different color. All right, and then you're going to take and fold it in half and match up the fence posts.
Hmm.
Okay, these are fence posts as opposed to these here are pickets.
Right.
So once you fold it in half and get it lined up, then you're going to cut it on the fold right between the two pickets that the fold wound up on. All right, so now you have your right piece and your left piece. I like to take the card and hold it open like this, because it's easier, or the other option would be to decorate the front of the card first so it's not lumpy when you go to put it together. I'm putting some little tiny dots of glue on the tree. You can take your sponge dauber, make a little puddle of your glue, and then daub the glue into onto the back of the tree. I'm going to put my base of my tree trunk about 1 inch up from the bottom and just stick it on there. And I'm going to make sure I get my left fence. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on each fence post. And I'm going to put minimal amounts of glue on the horizontal rails. I didn't know I'd ever need that information on how to make a fence. All right, and then when you put this on, you're going to put the base of the tree so that it winds up right even with this bottom rail. And then the fence is going to touch the edge of the card here. Right. Pretty good. There, I have a little extra glue on there I'm going to have to erase off. I also got it a little bit crooked, so you can still move a little bit with Tombow. But, you know, broken down fence looks like a broken down fence. Then on this side, you'll need to I like my moon down low for an October sky. Big harvest moon. Like it's just coming up over the world. So kind of like a little bit more than 1/3 of the way down, maybe. Looks pretty good. So, and then I'm going to glue the other half of the fence on, but I am not going to put any glue on this top rail on this section because I'm going to tuck the owl underneath there. So I just put it on the rails on the bottom. And man, this is really not getting much on here at all. And you might have to take a little head of a pin or a toothpick with some glue on it and go under the tops of all the pickets to make sure they don't, you know, flick up like that one is doing. And then you're going to match up your fence and glue it down. And my fence is going uphill a little bit, so we want to get it a little straighter than it was. It's still going uphill a little, but it's a card.
Lumpy ground.
And then you're going to take and put some glue on the back of the owl. And I'm going to tuck him under the fence so one of his wings kind of sticks over the fence. So it looks like he's sitting on the fence at a little bit of an angle. All right, you see that?
Cute. Yep.
All right, then the rest of it is putting on stars. And you can just put tiny little dots of Tombow and use your take a pick tool your quicker picker poker picker upper and put the stars right onto the glue. I think it looks really sharp with the yellow stars. But if you're not into gluing stars on there, you can take a silver glitter pen and make little asterisks all over. That will look real nice. Or if you have a star kind of splash stamp, some of the old stamp sets have stars in them, and you can use white ink and do it that way. Or you could be real fancy and emboss gold on there too.
Gold Winkostella.
Yeah, gold. Oh, I don't know if Winkostella will actually form into a star, but you can give it a shot. Try it on some scrap paper first.
I'm not sure about the stars, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can put Winkostella wherever you want. Make the moon sparkle a little bit, maybe. All right, so that's card 2. The next one we're going to do is a fall type of, well, late summer, early fall, thinking of you card.
Pretty.
And I wanted to show you that some of you will get a soft succulent colored bow and some will get a pale papaya. Just the luck of the draw on that one. I didn't have enough to do all the same color, so divided it in half. So put that off to the side. You're going to need smoky slate and gray granite. And I think that's all you need for this. Oh, you'll need pale papaya and soft succulent as well, inks. Right, here's your card kit. You have a piece of gray granite for the card base. This piece of designer series paper is from Bloom Where You're Planted. There's also pieces in the card or the DSP pack that is called In Good Taste. That, see if I have a sample of that paper. It looks, yeah, it looks more like this. Kind of looks like somebody was plastering. So this is the one that's in the In Good Taste. And that's the one that's in the In Good Taste. This one's in Bloom Where You're Planted. This one's in Good Taste. And you can tell that because it's got this wood grain on the back. All right, I'm just happen to be set up to use this particular one. It may be a chance as to which one you get in your kit. All right, so then you'll have a piece of this. This is 1 inch by 4 1/4. The inside layer is 4 inches by 5 1/4. You've got your standard card base, 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 folded and scored at 4 1/4. And I made this into a thinking of you. It could be a thank you. It could be a birthday. I left it blank inside because I plan on using it as a thinking of you, but I decorated the inside with matching paper, which is in your kit, just to pick up some of the remembrance from the front to the inside. So we can take one of the white pieces. There's two that are both the same size. We can take one and mount it on the inside of the card. And you'll need a sponge dauber or gray granite. Got several of them peeking out over here. There it is. And I'm going to flick the edges of the strip that goes in here and the outside piece of that. And it doesn't exactly matter in which order you do this. You can flick this after you're all done stamping it as well. But for this inside piece, I wanted the DSP just to have a little bit of a definition between it and its background piece, and it will give a tie-in of color from the front of the card to the inside of the card as well. I'm going to put it up about 3/8 of an inch from the bottom. To put this. If I ever get out of frame, let me know if you can't see. I'm trying to remember where to push it things up. Oh, this gets centered, no wonder. Yeah, the strip of that paper measures 3/4 by 4 inches, this piece. Okay, so that inside of the card is done. We'll take this piece here, and that's what we're going to work on next. And we are going to take this flower from the stamp set, which is Quiet Meadow. And Quiet Meadow has some beautiful sentiments in it too. Thinking of you, you're too kind and love, and then heartfelt love and caring thoughts are with you. That works for thinking of you. It also works well for a sympathy sentiment. So that's pretty much why I got this card set or this stamp set. I'm going to use Smoky Slate, and I'm using Smoky Slate because my Smoky Slate is just a little bit lighter. If yours is fresh and new, you may want to stamp off. So you're going to need to test how dark your Smoky Slate comes off. These images are just supposed to be some background noise. They're not supposed to be clearly visible. So I'm going to stamp one there. You can see how light that is. And I'll stamp another kind of here. And it's just randomly where you choose to put it. That's all we do with that particular stamp. Then we're going to get out this other stamp, other flower from the set. And I stamped that 3 or 4 times on there. Once there, once here, once over there, maybe one more time up here in this corner. That's good. Then we have some words. There are some words that are legible, but it's supposed to look like the time-worn type. And there's words such as breathtaking, growing in garden, the wildflower. So you want to make sure when you stamp this that you're stamping right side up, just in case somebody's particular like me. And I just random stamp these in different places. I think I did it 3 times. We're just making a noisy background with a little bit of interest. And then the last thing I used was what I call this filler splotchy kind of thing. And that gets stamped in the any open areas that you see. Try to move that here. Here. Reminds me of the gorgeous grunge card almost. You could also take your ink on a brush and splatter it if you wanted to do that. And as much as you do of that as optional as you want it to be. You can do less, you can do more. All right, then I have a new tool that I got recently, and it is the blending brushes. Oh my goodness, these are so much nicer than sponge daubers. They are lots more expensive, but they work really well.
I've ordered them. I haven't used them yet.
We're going to take a little bit of the soft succulent and pale papaya ink and just add a blush of color in the background. And you'll see that looks pretty inked up, but when you touch it to paper, there's hardly anything that comes off. So it's so much nicer than getting that blob of the blob from the, you know, the little circle from the sponge dauber. So I put a little soft succulent green on it in a couple places. Just a hint. Are those colors showing up for you at all?
A little bit.
I can see it.
Okay. So, you know, it's not a lot of color at all. It's just a little bit.
Those brushes clean easily?
No, they don't. This is one that I washed and it leaves stain behind, but you know, it's still clean.
Okay.
So it's like a dauber. It'll stain if you use it in dark inks. I think if you wash them out immediately, you will get most of that out of there. But I'm working on getting one for every color I have, so. Just blushes of color, and I think that's it. Alrighty, and then we're going to take a sponge dauber and flick the edges. The edges do not, this doesn't do real well on the edges for flicking, so it just doesn't work as well for that particular application. So you'll still need the sponge daubers around for this particular purpose. Almost. Seems like it takes forever when you're doing it, when you want to do it fast. All right. And while you have your gray granite and your sponge dauber, take this piece that looks sort of like Italian parsley or maybe celery leaves. I think it does anyway. And you would take and sponge some gray granite on here. Now this is pretty delicate, so you do need to do it while it's down on the table. You're just adding a little bit of color to it to make it so it pops up. Not pops up, but the color pops out. All right. So then you can set aside the gray granite for a bit. Get another dauber for pale papaya and color your pale papaya piece. Pale papaya piece, that's some onomatopoeia for you. Yesterday we had a challenge to say small brass Brad 10 times fast because I was not saying it, it was not coming out. It was a mess in my mouth. Anyway, someone else tried to do it and they said that they had had some dental work and didn't get one of them out, let alone more than one, 10 times fast. And then the last one, you do the same thing, adding a little bit of color with soft succulents. My soft succulent's pretty juicy, so it like loves to put a lot of ink on. Pretty much all you need on there. These daubers can go away for a little bit before I knock them into oblivion. Alrighty. So now we'll start assembly here. The front of the card has a plain white layer under the image feature. That's your 5 1/4 by 4 layer. Then I put on the DSP. You can see this is the back side of that Bloom Warrior planted paper. Even border there. And the first one I took was the pale papaya. I think it's kind of like a daisy. And I made these into stickers for you folks. So you can just peel the back off and stick them down. If for some reason I forgot or missed yours, then you'll have to glue them, but it's no big deal as far as the glue goes. So that one goes over here, kind of like so. The order is not real critical. I think I normally put the soft succulent one down first, this one, instead of the other one first, but I'm going out on a limb here and doing it backwards. A little bit tricky to get the backing started. Use a pin or very sharp scissors, picking tool. And you make those by putting the adhesive sheets on your cardstock before you die cut. And then cut your die cut out through the actual adhesive and cardstock together. But put these adhesive on your paper first and then die cut, because otherwise you get the excess adhesive, which winds up making a sticky mess. All right, so that's that. And then you have a little thing that looks like that. That's the center of the daisy flower. I cut it out of pale papaya because it was on the easy to put 2 dies through at the same time. But I think when you color it with Granny Apple Green, it kind of turns a yellow green, which is more like the center of a real daisy kind of looks like. But you can color this whatever color you want. And you can use marker, you can use crayon, you can use watercolor pencil. Now, last time I took this label off of this one, because it's a sticker as well, I split the paper in half. I did not do that this time, so it's going to be nice and sticky for me. And it just goes like that. Those dies are all in the Quiet Meadow, or Meadow Dies is the name of it. Now, there was also in the envelope, which it took off and went down in my bit here. I'm going to find all the rest of my missing pieces down there. I have a feeling there's a tag that I made for you. And we're going to stamp that with the thinking of you using gray granite because that's the color of our paper.
What did you punch the tag with?
It's also in the dies from
Okay.
the harvest dies. I mean, the meadow dies. It's in there. It's part of that die set. One gets a halo real easy.
The one that's on back order.
This is the thinking of you from Quiet Meadow stamp set. Right. Going to put a couple dimensionals on the back of there. And I again put them on the ends and leave the center open because you got this bulk of stems in the middle. If you put a dimensional on there, you'll have a wavy banner instead of a flat one. If you want to make it stick, you could put a glue dot in the middle instead of a dimensional, and then you would have more adhesive and no waviness. And then in your kit is a gem. There it is. Requires a little bit of, if you have a heat tool, these are heat set gems, but not many of us have heat tools. So I just use a little bit of Tombow. Place that on there like so. And then a glue dot on your ribbon. In a separate little baggie, no wonder I missed it. You'll either have a pale papaya bow or a soft succulent bow, and then it'll be a toss-up as to which one you get. Bow goes right up here in the corner. Kind of like that, straddling that gem. You can cut off any excess if you like. That's that card.
Pretty.
And the last card uses the Nature's Harvest stamp set and dies. Well, yes. We have a mossy meadow. I'm sorry, moonlight, misty moonlight. I'll get it right eventually. Misty moonlight card base. It's a top fold this time. And then you have your kit with all your little pieces in it. Hopefully they're all there. I'm going to go through again before I send them out or deliver them. This is for the inside of it. Is not embossed. It's for the inside of the card. You have an embossed piece for the outside of the card. So let's work on this card inside first. And it is mounted in my stamp positioning tool, which shall remain nameless. Anyway, I'm going to stamp the sentiment first, which is in the card set or in the stamp set, Nature's Harvest, right here. And it says, sending healing thoughts. May nature's beauty bring peace to your soul. Thought it was pretty. I'm going to stamp that with soft suede. I am going to clean that off. I'm going to put this inside of this card back in the machine and have it do something a little tricky. Now I don't want these, I didn't want these to be straight up and down on the inside. So I turned the inside piece of paper so that the left corner sits at about 1 1/4 and the right corner sits about at 5 1/4. Just so that's kind of the angle that came out. And I'm going to stamp up the same flower that we're going to use on the front of the card. To press. And then you have the inside of the card done. You can mount that up on the inside. All right, so that's the inside. And then we can set that aside for a while and get our embossed paper and our blending brush or sponge dauber or regular sponge. Any of the three will work. I'm just playing with a new tool that I like. And some soft suede ink. And we're just making this look a little time worn. This is embossed with the time worn type 3D embossing folder. And a mouthful. Okay. Just a little bit of texture around there, a little aging, a little grunge. All right, and I'm going to try to show you how this doesn't work as well for the edges. It works, but not as well. So it's kind of up to you how you do your edges, but since this is the way I did it on the other cards, I'll just continue. It's very, very much softer. And now that it's grungy, we need to mount it to the front of the card. That's so odd because we haven't had very much internet issues with our Zooms until today. I don't think and there are some readable words in here. One of them is harvest. There's so forever happy down here. Live and love and only are words that I can see. So you would want those to be right side up. It's got a tiny little border around the edge on this one. All right. So in your kit, do you know how to do this? Do you know how to stamp on your die cut piece that I give you?
No. Oh, put that part over it, yeah.
Yeah. So I have both of those pieces taped together with some tape just so I could keep the pairs together. But once you have cut a stencil, doesn't matter how many of these you end up putting inside of it, it works. So you lay your stencil. I'm going to flip this around and make it look like it was the first time I did this instead of several times. You put your stencil over here. You might want to tape it down with some of that piece of tape I gave you because magnets are kind of close. It looks like they fit though. And then you will take your clean. Now you see I dismounted this. Just make it so that you know how to do it. You take your, and you'll get a stencil in your kit so that you can mount this up on your tool. And you lay that inside of the, let's see, you can do this two ways. If you want to be able to see it better, let's do it this way. Lay this inside of here like this. Okay. Take the whole piece together. Now it moved anyway, so it's probably number one way is to just put it inside the stencil, and you'll see that it kind of locks in and doesn't move anymore. And then you're going to pick up the stamp with your lid of your tool.
You need to move it up.
Oops.
There we go.
Okay, so the stamp is up on the lid of my tool. I was having a brain issue here on how to open up the stamp set. Oh boy. I ink up the stamp, but I forgot to put your die cut piece back into its stencil. And then stamp the top. You can do this with any die cut piece that I send you. If it is important that it needs to be stamped, I tried to send the stencil along with it so that you can do this. And then you will see that the stencil is perfectly stamped, just as if you stamped it first and then die cut. Then you can color this. I'm going to use my Stampin' blends because I love them. You can use markers, you can use watercolor pencils. Almost any coloring method that you like. You can leave it plain. I'm going to start with dark Cajun Craze, and I'm going to color the darkest sections of the cone of the cone flower. I think this is a cone flower. Kind of looks like one. It's either that or I think with this drooping down, it's a cone flower. And then the rest of it in with light Cajun Craze. Doesn't look like a whole lot of difference, but it's nice for the shading. I'll just bring it down a little closer so you can see what I'm doing color-wise here. And then I'm going to take So Saffron, and I'm going to use the dark and color right up next to the cone flower center and just put a couple streaks of yellow into the other part. This one, get that dark up toward the center, and this one down toward the bottom. I'm going to set that aside and get out the light So Saffron and color the rest of the flower. And you'll see how that kind of blends in and makes it look pretty dimensional. I just love the way these work. They do leak through, so make sure you're not putting it on top of something totally important that you might ruin underneath. I haven't ruined anything yet.
Knock on wood.
And they color fairly fast. I have to be careful because when I say fast, then I go out of the line. So that's the coneflower portion of it. And then the rest of it, I used Old Olives, light and dark. And you can make this kind of same effect by taking and using your watercolor pencils for the light parts, and then go over them with the dark regular marker. And that'll make some of the difference up for you. These don't need to be totally perfect. I'm going to put some green at the base of that flower. Oh dear. And then I'm going to go back over this with the dark marker and put in the veins on the leaves. Just quick touches with that. Like this. And maybe a few touches up here. Maybe a couple touches in there. Some here. And some here. Right. And then I'm going to take that thing that I said I didn't need any more of, and I'm going to just darken up this vanilla. It looks a little stark when you put it on the card, so I'm just, whatever's on here, I'm just making it look a little bit darker so it's not quite so bright. That's it on that. So in your kit you will have something that looks like wheat. And then you will have some stickers to lay over the top to make them look blue. You can also make them look blue with one of the markers to color that over, but I found it looks more brownish when it blends together than it does when it. So you cut these little pieces off, and they are also stickers. If I can get them, there we go. Pull that one off. That one is going to go right on top. This one over here, let me take the backing off of it. And this one goes over here. This one is on top. And then the last one. So when you want to do this live, it makes it difficult. I wouldn't worry about struggling if somebody wasn't watching me. Alrighty. And then we're going to turn that over. Put some Tombow on the back. This one I did not make into a sticker. I could have. You can when you're making them for yourself. I'm putting the glue on the large parts and then the straight parts that are easy to glue. I don't do any of the real critical little things. Yeah. And then you kind of got to grab it. Let's pick it up this way. And it gets put on the card kind of almost straight up and down. Press. Kind of fans a little to the left. And then your cone flower gets glued over the top of that. This is pretty easy to glue because it's larger areas. So you can do that a little easier.
I have a question about the embossing folder. Where is that located? That's
The 3D time worn embossing folder, time worn type it's called. It's in the mini, I believe. And if I can find it.
okay, found it. I
Oh.
found it.
Is it in the mini?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought. And then, okay, so the last pieces that you have in your kit are these two pieces from the In Good Taste Designer Series paper. This is kind of a bluish, it looks like canvas. It's got blues and browns mixed into it, so it kind of picks up the colors of everything. And I just cut angles on the end of them and tried to make them look similar. It wasn't anything that I used a special tool for, just my snips. And we're going to glue them together on top of each other at a little bit of a stagger. Get down there. Okay. And the last piece is the label. And the Get Well comes from Well Said stamp set. A lot of us have that already. Where are you? Soft suede ink. What did I do with you? There you go. And then I'm going to take a little bit of soft suede on that sponge and just touch that up and make it a little worn looking, so it's not quite so stark again. That gets glued onto this apparatus here. In the center. I'm not waiting long enough for my glue to dry.
Yeah, we're not seeing any of that.
Okay. It's glued right in the center here. Still not.
There we are.
Put this back up a little. That's what happened. I lost my center space. All right. So then you're going to put some dimensionals on the back. Clump them together, but left the center open again. So all those stems are there. Woo, I pulled off 3 at the same time. Bonus. I always overdo with dimensionals. You don't need to do as many as I do, but I don't like them to look buckled or saggy. And since this is DSP instead of cardstock, it might buckle a little bit easier. Okay, and it just goes across the center like so. Ta-da!
Nice.
And that's your finished card.
Right.
Very nice.
Thank you. So let me stop the recording, and then if we have any chatting to do, we can do that.